Hello. We're going to wait just a couple of minutes here for more viewers to come on and for our guest to join today. But in the meantime, thank you all for joining us for our SAR Artists Live series. So we'll get started in just a little bit here. And we have a very fun program today. We're going to be able to chat with artist Haley Greenfeather English. So once she comes in and joins, we'll get going in the program and learn a little bit about her practice. And it looks like she is joining us. Might take a minute or two here. Oh,
Hi.
hello. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
I'm doing really well. Yeah, it's great to see you. I love your earrings.
Thank you. Sorry, my dog is gonna
No,
mind for a second.
that's totally fine. Yeah, you can take care of your dog. I have to do a little bit of an introduction anyway, so
Okay,
there's
great.
time. Yeah, well, thank you all for joining us today. This is our SAR Artist Live series. And my name is Emily Santanum, and I was a former Anne Ray intern at the School for Advanced Research from the years 2020 through 2021. And I'm currently the curatorial assistant at the Harwood Museum of Art in Taos, New Mexico. But I'm still lucky to be staying on with SAR as an interviewer and writer. And so this current SAR Artist Live series is focusing on legacy artists, which essentially entails a young and talented generation of Indigenous artists whose parent or parents were accomplished artists themselves. This program is supported in part by Shiprock Santa Fe, King Galleries, and Thomas Cleary LLC. It's partially funded by the City of Santa Fe Arts and Culture Department and the 1% lodgers tax. And just a reminder that if you're not yet a member at the School for Advanced Research, we'd love for you to join, and it's very easy to do so. It's $25 a year, and with the membership, you can take part in all of our online programming, members-only events, and more. So now that we have that finished up, I'd like to introduce our guest for the afternoon, Haley Greenfeather English. Haley is an artist and educator of Red Lake and Turtle Mountain Ojibwe descent and is a daughter of artist Sam English. She uses whimsical portraiture and brash, vibrant colors to explore the oddity, humor, and contradictory aspects of humanity. Her work draws from observation, personal narrative, and recycled memories to break down imposed notions of reality that are based on Western cultural biases. She holds a BFA from the Institute of American Indian Arts in Santa Fe and is the recipient of a Bureau of Indian Affairs Scholarship, as well as a Full Circle Scholarship from the American Indian College Fund. She's exhibited locally in Albuquerque and Santa Fe, as well as in San Francisco and Minneapolis. And her work currently sits in the collections of the Bernalillo County Public Art Collection, as well as II Museum of Contemporary Native Arts Collection. And just a reminder that if you have any questions or comments, you can pop them right into the comment box at the bottom of the screen, and we will get to them through this chat. So now that I've sort of talked about you in a very, background kind of way, would you like to introduce yourself in your own words?
Sure, I would love to. Thank you for the introduction also. Well, that's my dog Simone. My name is Haley English. I have two dogs. I'm a dog mom. I have a pit bull. Her name is Simone. She's barking right now because my uncle is here lighting the pilot light to the heater because it's getting cold outside. I'm from Albuquerque, New Mexico. I was born and raised there. I love New Mexico. I feel very attached to this place, and I feel grateful to live here and be here. I am an educator. I teach in a lot of different capacities in my community, and I've been teaching for like 12 years now, which is really exciting. I didn't realize that it had been over a decade. What else? I'm a Leo. I shaved my head recently. I have no hair.
It looks good. It really does.
Thank you. It feels amazing, honestly. Yeah, and so that's a little bit about me.
That's really great. Well, I guess we can just start diving right into questions since you didn't really toot your own horn about the kind of arts that you do. So if you wouldn't mind maybe giving a bit of your personal history in the arts and maybe when you started making art and what that journey's looked like for you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I feel like the beginning of my journey is like why I'm here today because my dad is an artist, and he has a painting that's up at SAR that I didn't know about, and also I don't think he knew about.
Oh,
But
wow.
he's forgetful. Who knows if it's that he doesn't know where it ended up, but he remembered making it, which is really cool. But yeah, my dad is a painter and just like an artist and rebel activist human being, and so he's had me painting with him since I was little. Art has always been a part of my life. I think it became more of like a career or something that I was doing to make money maybe like 5 years ago, 5 or 6 years ago. I think is when I started to take it seriously and I started to understand how I could live and be an artist. For a long time I didn't really understand how you could exist and make art at the same time. Really, art had just been for me for a really long time, and that's how I learned uh, to make work. Was, it's so personal and so deeply embedded in like how I process the world and how I process memory and all of these different things. But yeah, it wasn't until I started going to IAIA where I think I realized that I could do it all the time, and I could do it in a lot of different capacities. I've been drawing and painting my whole life, but I also do sculpture and I like to do murals, and pretty much any type of art that you can give me, I want to make something out of it. It's not necessarily going to be good, but anything I like to experiment with and try.
What kind of classes did you take at IAI? What was your focus, or did you sort of run the gamut in terms of mediums and materials?
Definitely painting. I tried a
Okay.
couple of different things. I took a jewelry class, which I was like, this isn't for me. It involves chemicals and fire. Welding felt the same way. I've tried a lot of things that I was like, it's just not my personality to do these things. But I did, yeah, I did welding. I did sculpture. I did like large scale plaster sculpture. I made a sculpture of this trick that never got finished, but it was like and I worked with like a lot of like quirky like hand things when I was doing sculpture work, but I did printmaking too, ceramics, because like I said, I just like to experiment with stuff. I think that by doing that it can lead you to different places in your art practice that I think feel really good or really fulfilling that like one thing cannot fully encompass.
Right, yeah. And that like that experimentation, even if it doesn't necessarily look successful in the one project, like it can transfer over creatively in other
Yeah,
spaces.
absolutely.
That makes a
It
lot of
interprets
sense.
work differently, which is always exciting.
Hmm. Um, well, yeah, I guess I was sort of looking through your website and looking through different pieces that you've created, and I was really struck by how fun a lot of the names are. Like you have different series, Super Duper Indians, Attachment Theory, Head in the Sky, Feet on the Ground. And I was wondering if you would maybe describe one or two of these projects, and maybe if there are constant themes throughout your work, if you'd want to sort of tease those out at this point.
Yeah. I think the biggest theme in all of my work is usually kinship or relationships, and narratives behind them. That's something that I see that's common between them all. But Head in the Sky, Feet in the Clouds was exciting. It was the first interactive mural that I've ever done before. I did it at the Balloon Museum, and I collaborated with the director, the curator of the show, and then a couple of people who had worked doing other interactive art before. So it started out as a mural that was about like women throughout ballooning, because usually women's narratives in ballooning or like aviation is left out and not talked about a lot. So I chose, I think, 12 women that I would portray from like the beginning of ballooning until present day ballooning. And it was really exciting for me because I feel like, the more I practice, the more I do projects, the more I push myself, like my work evolves in this way that I'm like, wow, that came out of my hands. How does that end my brain and my body? Like, how is it possible? And so this was like a giant, large scale mural. I think it was 13 feet by 15 feet. And it was all of these women, and it was portraits of them, but then within each portrait was like a narrative about their life also. And then it showed how connected like all of these narratives are together too. And I did like a little claymation that's projected in the middle of it, so it like triggers, and you can watch this little claymation of all of the women in the different balloons that they flew throughout time. And that was really exciting. You know, I do a lot of different types of work, but I felt like that was really challenging because it was so many different narratives to bring together in one piece. But that's what made it so cool too, was like to learn about all of those people, to know, to understand the history of ballooning, which was really interesting. And yeah, so that was a recent project I did last year. It was probably the longest project I've ever done. It took maybe like 8-9 months for it to fully be formed.
Oh, is it outdoor art or is it inside?
It's inside, but it was because I was collaborating with so many different people in the space on what it would look like. It started, I did a million drawings of it, a million different drawings of all of these people, all of these narratives. And so it took a long time, the prep work for it and the studying that, right, yeah, it felt like studying, the studying that I had to do and sort of like taking in of all of the different information that I had. But then the actual painting was only 2 weeks. So that was really cool too. Got done quick, got up at the Balloon Museum, if you feel like seeing it, at Balloon Fiesta. But yeah, so that was the most recent thing I think that I've done. And then the other one that you asked about was one of the other ones.
Let's see, Super Duper Indians.
Oh yeah, that was my thesis show at IAIA.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, and so it felt great. I did portraits of all of my friends and family, and I wanted to reference Fritz Shoulder, who had, you know, his show Super Duper Indian, which I feel like was, or like is loaded all on its own, because you read about it and it's Fritz always being like, I'm not an Indian, like I'm not, and then it's like all these other curators like writing stories about him being Native, and he was Native, but then he, you know, he was detached from his culture. So I feel like there's a lot of like depth and nuance in there that is a part of being a Native person, and so I wanted to use that, but then to make it super. And it was just great. It was really fun. And I think it was a time when I was sort of coming into my being as an artist, where I was like, oh, this is how I paint. Like I've painted my whole life, but it was the first time where I like felt like it was me. And it was really exciting because I think other people saw that too. And so it was just a cool project to do. And then from there, I've just been all over the place now. Like graduating was really nice for me because I was in and out of school for 10 years. Which is maybe just because I have a lot of air in my chart. I'm sort of all over the place. But I'm trying to find my grounding in the world. I think I'm getting there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I was kind of curious. So you said that your Super Duper Indians thesis was portraitures, and then this current series that you did for the Blue Museum was portraits of, and sort of telling the narratives of different women through that ballooning history. Do you feel like you tend to gravitate towards depictions of people over other, like, I guess, ideas or themes?
It depends. I love portraiture. I won't lie. I love to paint people. And I love to paint figures. I know that that is something that I'm very drawn to. But at the same time, it's not what I always do. I think it really depends on the idea, on the project. You know, the Balloon Museum one too, it was like, you know, running the idea through multiple people, and that felt like the best thing to do was portray these people in full color as like they deserve to be seen. And that's sort of how I felt with the Super Duper Indians too. But at the same time, that showed like I can paint realistically to a point, but I also can't. And so that's why my work looks the way that it does. I think that it has a very like, you know, unique Haley style. But a lot of that time it's because like I can't do certain things, and so I figure out ways around it to make it work. Well, I'm like, okay, I can't do, you know, a perfect portrait, but I can make something that has a lot of like little detail in it, or you know, storytelling behind it that makes it interesting. And so I think that's like my coping mechanism as an artist. Like I love to do certain things, but when I can't do them totally successfully is when it becomes like sort of whimsical or living in a different world than reality.
And then it becomes like your own distinct style, like you were saying, like it kind
Yeah.
of realizes. Yeah, very, very cool. Well, I'm curious about, I know you've been dabbling in murals for quite a while, and I'd imagine that the process for creating murals might be different from creating, a more limited sized canvas. But some of the murals you've done were for Meow Wolf and Mokna and the Growlery in San Francisco. So I'm just curious, yeah, if that process is different, and if there is something about like the larger scale that you enjoy working in.
Yeah, large scale work feels very empowering to me. Like that is the first word that comes to mind. I just know that when I show up for a mural now that I've done a couple of them, I know exactly what I need to do. I understand, all the supplies that I need to bring now. I understand how much paint I need to buy. I understand how much time it's going to take. I think that when I first went into doing murals, like the first one that I did, I spilled a gallon of paint in my car. I said the word incorrectly. Like all of these things and I felt so prepared in the moment. I had like a projector, I had traced it, but it was, I don't know when maybe it was like 7 years ago that I did my first mural.
And where
And
was that? Who was that with?
it was at Sister Bar in downtown Albuquerque.
I
My friend,
love Sister Bar. That's a
yeah,
great place.
well, and that's what's so great about friendship, community, relationships. My friend Zeus owns it. He's the one that had proposed that I do it. And I had never had anyone offer me a wall before besides like in my own bedroom or, something like that. And so that opportunity was really important to me because I did it all on my own. I had to figure out how to make it work. And I think as I do more murals, I like the feeling of problem solving a big mural because I don't always do outlines and I don't always do a projector. I'll just sort of be like, I got it. I can do it. And so I get better and better, I think, in that way of like feeling really confident and going into it. I also like murals because usually I've been drawing for a while and really thinking about what I'm going to do. Sometimes if I approach the canvas, I'm just like, I'm going to repaint this 100 times over 2 years, and then I'm going to get a completely different thing. But a mural does take a certain level of planning for me, which makes it easier. I also just think it's really meditative. You're using your entire body to do something.
Right.
And that is really cool. It's really exciting. It's also hard because perspective is difficult. And so I think I like the challenge of it too. The mural that I did at 516 last year was the biggest mural I'd ever done. It was 30 feet tall. And I think I did it in a week and a half. And so that was amazing because I'm alone a majority of the time when I do my murals. I haven't had assistance. I've had friends assist me, like come and help me and also just chat with me, which I like and I think is helpful. But I like that it's something that is just like, this giant thing with nothing on it. And I just know what to do. I don't know how to describe it more than that I just like understand how much paint I need to make and like how much time I need to allot for it. How many podcasts I need to download to make it through.
Right. How many friends you have to tack to.
How many people I have being like, will you just call me? I've been here for 8 hours. I feel wild right now.
Yeah. Bring me back down, please.
Yeah, bring me back to the earth. But I know too, I struggle. I did an outdoor mural for the first time and that took me 10 or 11 months, I think. I started it in the fall and then I finished it in the springtime. And so that's something that I would like to get better at is outdoor murals and that challenge.
Well, I'm kind of curious about that. I mean, if you're working on a piece for, like you're saying, I mean, essentially like 9 months or so, by the end of the project, do you feel like at the beginning of the project, there were things you would have changed about it, having spent so much time looking at it and working with it?
Yeah, but I feel that way no matter what. Anything that I look at, I'm always like, ooh, that wasn't right. Oh, I wanted to fix that thing. So it's also, it's taught me to live, I don't know, live with the way things are too. Like you only I think I used to get more anxiety, like, oh, I did this wrong. I painted this incorrectly. I can tell this. And it was helpful to talk to other people who don't necessarily see those things. And then I remind myself that, okay, well, like the next one, I'll remember this and that and to fix that. But I think it was harder to do the 9-month one. Yeah, because I kept changing things. I'd be like, oh, those pants are the wrong color. Oh, that water bottle needs a smiley face. And then after a while, I was like, it has to be done. I have to.
Right, yeah.
But I had, yeah, it was like at a beautiful nature reserve in the South Valley. And I would bring my dog and eat snacks. And my dad would come and visit me. And so it was also fun. I liked the outdoor painting is just nice.
That sounds like a beautiful process.
Yeah.
But you did, for a moment, mention your 516 mural that you created. So would you mind talking a little bit about that feminisms show?
Sure, sure. The curator, Andrea Hanley, contacted me and asked if I could do a mural with the show title in it. And I think initially I had proposed doing portraits because that's what I do a lot of the time. And then, I don't know, after a while shifting, I was thinking a lot about, again, like caregiving and kinship and how that looked in regard to queer Indigenous feminism. And just how everybody can be a caregiver, everybody can take care of each other, and that's sort of how we live and we thrive and survive, and how we can all take on caregiving. You don't have to be, you can be anybody to take on that aspect and to care about other people. And so I created like a mountain, or what I thought was a mountain, and it just, yeah, it felt like painting a mountain too because it was so tall. But I thought it was beautiful. It came out really interesting. It was the first time that I had done maybe like something that was less graphic, because it was a mountain, but it wasn't a literal mountain. It was sort of, a lot of like energetic lines that made a mountain together. And it was interesting because I don't work with text a lot, but I did my best and I thought it was pretty good. And I thought that entire show was great. It was a fun show to be a part of. Especially during COVID, to have something to do, to be in 516 for like a week and a half just painting alone. It was really nice.
That does sound really nice.
Yeah.
Because I am curious. I mean, it seems like every artist I've talked to has kind of dealt with COVID in a different way. Like either it made them super productive or it made them feel like they needed to switch up their techniques or switch up, different series they were working on. How do you think it influenced you, just sort of like in the grand scheme of your art and just your life?
Well, it's still happening. And so I feel I feel like there are two things that have happened where like I know a lot of people who it sort of like upended everything and made you rethink everything about the way that you live, your art practice, all of these different things, or like it did nothing. But I feel like for me, it really did like flop everything over and make me rethink the way that I exist in the world, the way I exist in the art world specifically too, why I make work, who I make work for, how I'm treated as an artist, and like negotiating with myself how I let people treat me too. I think that I did well over COVID. I had a couple of murals, I had projects to do, but a lot of things ended too. I lost my teaching job right away. We had to sort of like figure out how to bring it all back together. But yeah, I don't know. I think I'm changing a lot and trying to figure out how I want to exist in the art world and as an artist and as a human being, really. TBD. I don't know yet, but I think I feel good about what I'm doing. And I think I feel better about boundaries and about being able to know what I need out of projects also, not that I just have to do any opportunity that's given to me, or especially just like things for people because we're asked. Like I think a lot of the things in the art world, we expect so many things from artists, and we're not all equipped to do all of those things all the time. And I hope that people can be more gentle with artists and also understand that, we're struggling a lot. So be nice to the world.
I think that's a good thing for all of us to have in the backs of our minds at all times. Just be nice.
Just be kind if you can.
Yeah. Well, I guess I was also curious about your sort of path in education, and you mentioned that you lost your teaching job, which I'm really sorry to hear because it sounds like you've been teaching a long time and you have a lot of tools you can offer. So how has that journey been in terms of teaching? And do you tend to teach more like youth-oriented classes, or what does that sort of education look like for you?
It is better now. I think it was like the first 5 months of COVID because we couldn't teach in person. I have a teaching program that I like co-run with 5 other people, and we've been doing it for 4 years now. We teach at uh, a couple of different places in Albuquerque, like the Transgender Resource Center, New Day Safe Home, and the Juvenile Detention Center. And so a lot of our programming was obviously in person. And then it's also in spaces where people are already contained. So right away, like, nobody could go in there. And we also had to problem solve like how to get art to everybody. But it was okay because eventually the city decided to refund our program. And so we made like art packs for people, individual art packs, and we sent them out. And then we also did teaching videos online, which are strange. And I would not like to watch the beginning ones that I think those should not live in the world, but they are. They're on some website somewhere. But we made it work. And my teaching program gets refunded whenever the city of Albuquerque feels like funding it. So we do it like every 6 months. We did it over the summer too. We did art packets. We made zines for people. We did coloring books. We did videos. So I think it ended up being pretty successful. But I started in-person teaching at Job Corps through Working Classroom a couple of weeks ago. They got an Indian Ed grant, and there's like a charter school inside Job Corps that I work at, and it's a very small class. And
Also
honestly,
based in Albuquerque?
it's in Albuquerque, yeah.
Okay.
And it's older young adults, or young adults, but older than I'm used to teaching. So it's like 18 to 22. So it's fun. We just do a lot of chatting and we make art together and create community that way, which is also, I realized, how I was raised. My dad teaches like that too, where he just like has a cup of coffee, a cigarette, and he's like talking about healing, spirituality, painting portraiture. And I'm not exactly like that. Obviously, I just have coffee. But I thought it was cool when I realized that, where I was like, had anxiety. I was like, I don't teach like other people. And then I realized that's okay. I don't have to. It's fine. And so, yeah, teaching has been good. I love teaching. It, I think, gets me from one project to another, like financially sustains me in a nice way. Because I also get anxiety about living off of my artwork, which I don't know if other people feel that way. But
I'm
if I
sure everybody feels that way who works
yeah,
in the arts or is an artist. Yeah, I think that's
it's so stressful. You're just like, I will like get really down on my worth if I like don't have enough projects, or I haven't done anything in a long time. And so teaching is, I think, just another creative outlet. Like we talked about, practicing many different art forms. Teaching is also an art form too. And it's another way of like creatively, problem solving in your head of like, how am I going to get these people to paint today? How am I going to get them to be into what we're doing? And I like doing that. I like chatting. So I'm good at just like when kids or young people don't want to chat, I'm like, I will just chat about art, and it's to get into
I
it.
will draw this out for you.
I
Sounds
will, yeah, I will just like bounce around the room and be like, have you tried this color? Have you tried this thing? Which is fun too, because my classes aren't maybe like structured in a way where you have to get a grade, or like you're trying to paint something realistic. It's really just about exploring. It's about exploring. It's about chatting. It's about being open to trying new things, and being kind to each other, creating a safe space.
Hmm. Well, that sounds really beautiful. I'm glad that you're able to get back into the in-person sphere because I'm sure that, I mean, teaching art through a screen just does not translate as well. I imagine that'd be really difficult.
Did you all do that at SAR? I know you have an education program too. I was wondering if
Yeah,
you.
I do know that we had different SAR makes videos. So there would be, instances where our education assistant would sort of learn different art techniques from other artists within the community. So I think one of the more recent ones was making little pinch pot clay turtles. So yeah, there were ways in which we tried to do it virtually, but I think, yeah, there is just kind of like a slight disconnect there.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it's the screen.
Yeah.
It's
And
hard.
sometimes like the internet lag is like a literal disconnect. So hard to get around that.
Yeah, it is. We're all doing our best.
Right, right. Um, well, I guess I also would maybe like to hear a little bit about your background in terms of all of the artist residencies that you've done and how that's shaped your work, because I know you've been included in Site Santa Fe back in 2017, 2018, and the Growlery, like we talked about, your different scholarships through the BIA, American Indian College Fund. So do you feel like having those extended, discrete periods of time to just work on art has been really useful in terms of being able to like pivot to new techniques? Or do you always have multiple projects going on, even when you have residencies?
It depends. I actually haven't done very many residencies. So the Growlery is really the only, I would say, like real residency where I like left and I went for a month and I stayed there and I made art for the entire month. And I did a mural. And that was exciting because my dad was supposed to go with me. We had my friend Kija was curating and like living at the Growlery and bringing artists in. And they had asked if my dad and I wanted to go. And I was like, yes, absolutely. But he doesn't want to leave. I think part of it is just getting older too. It's harder for him to leave, and he doesn't want to be away from home. And so the solution to that was that he gave me a couple of his sketches from his sketchbook, and I took that and I created something completely different out of it, while maintaining like the same outline or idea that he had had. And so I loved that because that was one of my first murals too that I got to do. And I got to live in San Francisco with him for a month, which was exciting. I wouldn't have been able to do that otherwise. But yeah, that was the only real residency I've done. I've not gotten any other ones. Someday I want to get the SAR one. When I apply, when I sit down and actually get my application. But that's a lot of the issue that I have too is like, I know that as artists, like residencies are one thing we're supposed to be doing. But my life doesn't always like accommodate for them. I have two dogs. I have one dog that is not an easy dog either. She doesn't get along with other dogs. And so it sounds funny, but it's like sometimes it's easier for me to just be home and to like focus on making work when I can make work and making my life like a residency. It's
Hmm.
not, I wouldn't say it's perfect by any means. But I have made it so that teaching gives me enough space to make art when I want to make art, but I'm still making money and being able to like live my life here because I also just love it here. I like to go on vacation, but I don't necessarily want to do a lot of residencies. I think they're cool, but maybe not for me. And I think that's part of me figuring out the art world also is like, where do I fit in? Where do I go if not doing all of these things that other people do? And I think it's just doing it slowly too. I feel like I'll do more of them someday. But school felt like a residency too, in a lot of ways. I think I went there because I needed help for sure. I needed help in talking about my work. I needed help in, I think, making my visual language come to life and understand what it meant to me. Uh, so I like that aspect of art. I also worked at an art camp for like 3 years in a row in Napa, California. And that's not a residency, but it felt like a residency. There were, 15 other teachers there who were all working artists. And everybody would just sort of share about like what residencies they've gone to, what shows they do, what grants they apply for. We would have, like nightly things where we would talk about our own art. So it wasn't about the kids all the time. It was also about the work that we make as well. And so I try to find those moments in being an artist also where like maybe I'm not necessarily like, I don't know, showing at a gallery or something, but if I'm with like a group of people that I enjoy and I like their art, And if I can sit and have like a constructive talk about it, that feels cool too. So I think it's like also making art happen in everyday life and making space for it, not necessarily that I need to go to somewhere to be able to have time and space for it.
I think that's really beautiful. And it kind of ties into what you were talking about in terms of, um, yeah, this past year and the continuing COVID-19 pandemic kind of upending people's notions about like productivity or like certain spheres where they're supposed to be working and certain spheres where they're just at home. And it kind of allows for more like flexibility within and between those
Yeah.
spaces. So I think that's important.
Yeah. Yeah. Make your life a residency if you can.
That's a beautiful idea. Well, so I guess you were mentioning a little bit about with the other people that you were working with at that summer camp in Napa. You were talking about residencies or exhibits that you were involved in. In terms of exhibits that you have been involved in, I know that you, I think it was back in 2019, were in a group show at the Harvard Art Center out in Albuquerque. And I was really intrigued by it. I was reading about the Future Perfect show.
Mm-hmm.
And sort of the grounding idea behind it, where you were supposed to project yourself forward and look back on your actions that were supposed to be completed through like an ephemeral kind of installation. And it sounded like a really short show, like just 1 month, right?
Yeah.
What was that project like? And I mean, do you like being involved in like faster paced, sort of dynamic environments?
No.
Okay.
Don't think
Was
so.
it stressful?
No, that one was not stressful. I've had projects where I'm like, oh, I have 1 month. The turnaround is 1 month. Um, but again, I think I've got better at being like, oh, I don't have to do that if it gives me so much anxiety that like I want to throw up for a
Yeah.
month. Like that's not worth it to do something like that. And then also just being better about like understanding how much time it takes me to do things. Not like, oh yeah, I'll get that done in 2 days, and then it's like 3 weeks later and I'm stressed out and I'm not done. So I do better now at not taking on too many projects, and then sort of planning them so that I don't have them all happening at the same time. Because definitely right out of school, I just started doing whatever I could. I was just like, just get me into stuff. I want to do art projects. I want to do murals. I want to do teaching. I want to do this. And it was great. And I like that sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, I need to do a million things. But I've not felt like that, I guess, like during the COVID life. I feel very chill. Like I'm trying to make sure that I feel good, that my body is good, that my time is respected, that I have enough time to prep for something and make something that I like and I don't feel bad about. Uh, that one didn't feel bad because I feel like I knew about it longer than a month. Or if I didn't, then I just got it done really fast. But I made cardboard cutouts. And also, when you described Future Perfect, I was like, did I do that correctly? Or like, where? Maybe not. I know I didn't understand at first. I was like, I don't understand what the show is about, and I had to look it up. But the piece that I had ended up making was about this exchange, this moment between these two men that I've known a long time. They're in AA with my dad, and so I always go to like different Red Road conventions with him. And I just like eat hot dogs with everybody and listen to their stories. I've done it since I was little. It's just like a part of my life. But these two old men that I know walked up to each other and they gave each other this like glare and they didn't say anything for a minute. And one of them was like, "It's nice to see you." And the other one was like, "It's nice to be seen." And then they just started hysterically laughing. And I was just like, it's such a beautiful moment. And I thought it was such, I don't know, such a like heartwarming thing to say to somebody too. It's nice to be seen by somebody, especially in a time when like we really don't see each other. We don't give each other like, I think, authentic connection a lot of the time. And that one you could just tell like they'd known each other a long time. They loved each other. Like they could express like both like something really funny and really deep in like a split second. So I think in my mind, the Future Perfect for me was about like how can we get back to that? How can we get back to like a more authentic connection between people and friends? I think that's what I did. And it was cool. The other artists were working at the same time. I enjoyed that. It was the first thing I've ever done where it was all murals and installations that were in it. So I got to hang out with Jeremy Salazar and get to know Jeremy a little bit better, and that was exciting. And it's always interesting to me to see how other people work. Very different than me. I'm very messy. I'm a little bit chaotic. But other people are very neat, very trim. You know, Lynette Houses is so good, like such a clean, like neat person. And I love watching people paint like that because I'm always like, how do you do it? And it's so neat that we all make art in such very different ways.
Yeah, and that the curator was able to sort of pull all of those different ways of approaching art into one show. Yeah, and make that cohesive.
It looked good. It was cool. It was a neat, I think, successful show in a cute little gallery space.
Very cool. Well, I don't want to take up too much of your time, and we're already a little bit past my half-hour suggestion on a time limit. But I guess I would like to know, and I'm sure the people who are watching would like to know, where you see your art and also sort of your work in education moving in the near future, and if there are any projects that you're especially excited about, or even like, personal life projects, because that matters too.
Let me think. I think I don't I haven't made art in a couple of months, which I think is okay to say too. I think a lot of other artists go through it, but I just haven't made anything. I keep telling myself that I'm living life, which is content for art making. So I'm just like writing things down, I'm writing dreams down, I'm drawing. So I think the thing I look most excited for or look forward to, and I'm excited about is just like whatever comes out of this time that I haven't been making art. Because I have so many ideas about things and so many things that I want to create, but I haven't moved them out of my body yet. And so I look forward. I look forward to that moment when it happens. I don't know when it is. I'm trying not to push it, but I think it will be really good. I think that my art is getting to a place that is exciting for me and I know is exciting for other people that have been watching me for a while.
Yeah.
It's different, it's evolving. That's cool. I think that means I'm growing, which is fine. But that's what I'm looking forward to. Will you remind me of the other things that you asked me? Because I forgot.
Well, yeah, I guess yeah, it was just sort of what you're looking forward to in your art, but also, in terms of the work that you do in art education, if there are any interesting projects in that realm. And also the fact that you just recently moved, right? That's a pretty big deal.
I did many, many different moves, which yes, I'm now like realizing they are a big deal. And it was a lot because I was like, why do I feel so sad and like anxious all the time? Then I was like, oh, back to back moves, like transitions in life. And so I think my body and my mind needed rest. But it's good. I'm putting things into the future to have a home, to live on some land, a little bit outside of town. I'm really looking forward to that. And then with teaching, I'm really trying to advocate for our teaching program to get funded by other people. I would like to, I think part of my art journey has been like sort of detaching from the city of Albuquerque, which was something that I was always like, well, that's where a lot of our art money comes from in our community. But I don't want to take their money. Whenever I don't have to, I don't want to, because it comes with a lot of little strings attached to a lot of people that I don't agree with. And I feel like being an artist means that I get to have freedom in what I say, what I believe, and don't want people to impede on that. And so my hope is that we can get funded through other places. We can get funded more regularly so that we can be teaching in person at least 6 months of the year. That would be cool. And then, yeah, I don't know, just I guess taking on more education jobs as the year goes on would be something I would be looking forward to, more in-person stuff. I'll do Zoom classes, but I don't love them. So I hope that things get better to the point where we get to do more safe in-person art stuff. Because art is hard. You're touching everything all the time. A lot of sharing of stuff. But yeah, that's it.
Well, and if anybody wanted to keep up to date or maybe check out some pieces that you have done in the past and they hadn't been privy to your work before, where might they be able to, I guess, like, yeah, keep up to date with your practice, your art, or maybe even if you just have a website, a place that they can go to just see what you do?
I have a website. I need to update it, but it is Haley Greenfeather Art. Please take a look. Let me know what I can improve if you want to email me. I have a new Instagram now. I was locked out of my other Instagram, which I use for business or like art stuff a lot. So it really bummed me out, but it is what it is. Add me on this new Instagram. If anybody knows of anybody trying to get a hold of me, please my phone number,
Send
let
them
me know.
this way.
I'm here. I just exist in a different Instagram handle. And I think, yeah, I think the website is probably the best way. And then maybe this new Instagram will have more art one day. Or just let's hang out and have coffee and I can show you some artwork and stuff like that. I also want to say shout out to my friend Rochelle who is in here. Hey, Rochelle. And that's it.
Oh, that's sweet. Well, is there anything you wanted to mention or, like throw into the internet ether that we haven't talked about yet before we wrap up this conversation?
Internet ether. No, not a lot. I don't think. I'm just chilling in this world. I feel appreciative that you asked me to be here. Yeah, and it was fun. Thank you for chatting with me and for everybody being here. And that's it. That's all I got.
Great. Well, yeah, thank you so much for being amenable to this and keeping it on your calendar, even with the craziness of your back-to-back moves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and I respect that, you have your own time and, your own life. So this is definitely, was really nice to be able to chat with you
Yes.
virtually. And then just for those watching who do follow the SAR Artists Live series, next month we'll be talking with the talented artist Jo Povey Romero, who is the daughter of Mateo Romero. And that'll be the last Wednesday in October. So until then, thank you so much, Haley, and thank you everyone who tuned in.
Have a good night.
All right, thanks. Bye.
Bye.